When we look at burnout as a whole, there's obviously many factors involved, and we touched on some of these out of this data that's been collected. But I really like this sort of 5-area summary. This is from a Canadian family physician article, which really breaks it down into major categories. So one being clinical. Our patients are becoming more complex. There's more guidelines. There's more things that we need to be up to date about. So that causes a lot of stress. There's the managerial things, like there's lack of resources everywhere you look. There's poor working conditions due to lack of resources. And also, this is where the financial piece can come in, where there's this lack of financial education and literacy to manage the business of medicine. This is what many colleagues, certainly of our vintage, report. Well, we were never taught any of this. And this is what we're hoping to change and be part of that change, along with Steph and other people in this sort of financial education ecosystem that has formed in the last few years. There's the policing and complaints, right? Everybody's afraid of their regulatory college, fear of litigation, and that causes a lot of stress and contributes to burnout. There's workforce issues, both in recruiting physicians to cover practices like parental leaves, finding locums for just getting a break and having a vacation. It's very difficult to leave certain types of practice. And then there's many others. Things like negative opinions of physicians in the media, that overwhelming debt load that Paul was just mentioning, and the pressure of many financial commitments that our colleagues often report. They're supporting children, lower earning spouses, sometimes their parents as well. And so lots and lots of financial pressures that are put on physicians. And so I've highlighted some of the things that have financial sort of flavors, certainly not the entire picture, but definitely a significant contributor to burnout. So how does financial literacy help prevent burnout? Well, it's something that can give us autonomy if we have control over our finances. If we have autonomy, we have more control over our time. If being at work and filling out forms and, working in poor working conditions is contributing to burnout, financial independence and that autonomy over our time will allow us to step back and then perhaps work less and enjoy that time that we do have at work a bit more, because we don't have to be there, we want to be there. So we often talk about financial independence, and let's define it. What is financial independence? It means that you don't have to work to fund your lifestyle, and it also means that you've saved and invested wisely so that you can live on the interests or the dividends of what you have saved. And many people sort of, when they hear this definition, think, well, wait a second, isn't really that the definition of retirement? And it's not. Retirement's very different. Financial independence means that you have the freedom to work as much or as little as you want. You can pursue the things outside of medicine if you want.
And then there's also another theme that was asked in the questions and the Q&A that was around, we're so busy. As physicians, we're incredibly busy. We don't have time to manage our finances. How do you balance all the work that you do with teaching and clinical work while also finding time to manage your assets instead of just, let's say, handing it all to a financial advisor or financial planner?
Yeah, so I'm going to push back on that a little bit. First of all, understanding the basics doesn't really take a lot of time. Like we've estimated, if you spend about 20 hours, which is not a huge amount of time considering how much time you've spent studying all the different things that you've studied in medicine, you can really learn some basics. And once you get up and running, once you have a brokerage account that has an RSP and a TFSA, and once you understand that when you fill it with money, you understand what you have to invest in, there are so many products now that are so easy to use. It's very easy for you to do that investing part. So I don't accept that you don't have time to do it. I think that you can't, you have to find the time. I'm not sure how else to say that. If you don't understand the basics and just hand all of your, financial resources over to someone, then I think you give up a lot of power and autonomy. So understand fees, understand, what you're investing in. You really have to understand the basic language. And if you're someone who says, what, I'm so busy, I can't do any of this, I have to hand it off to someone else. It's kind of like the diabetic patient in your clinic who says, oh, I don't check my sugars. And, sometimes I take my, my medication and, it just overwhelms me and I just can't do it. Well, you have to, because your future depends on you taking your medication. And if you're a physician and you're going to have a high income and you have debt, you got to manage your finances. There's no way around it. So I hate being sort of tough love, but kind of tough love in that situation, right? That being said, there's nothing wrong with getting an occasional, fee for service financial planner, someone that you meet with and gives you a plan and maybe helps you a little bit. Certainly those are all very reasonable things to do. You can buy products that are easier financially for you to manage, but you got to put in that minimum time.
And I would just say also, Stephanie, you asked about like, how do we balance everything? We probably spend a cumulative maybe 5 to 6 hours a year on our actual investments, right? Because we believe in protecting our time and not overly complicating things. So we don't really do a lot of tinkering. So the actual mechanics of investing really doesn't take a long time. And we're big proponents of that because we get it. We get that physicians are busy, right? And so definitely the learning about it takes a bit more time, but the actual mechanics can truly be very, very simple. And, and I think oftentimes it's, I don't have time. I don't have an interest in the financial stuff. It often gets compared to, like, I don't like cleaning my house, so I'm going to outsource that, right? And we talked about evidence for how that can actually make you happier. Outsourcing all of your money management, we would argue, is not a good approach, because no one can look after your own finances as well as you can. And so this is the one area where you want to remain, as involved as you can be, right? Because even there's problems if like one spouse in a relationship completely checks out, is completely not interested in anything financial. This is where sometimes people get into trouble, because their other spouse maybe is developing a gambling addiction and suddenly there's a $300,000 line of credit because of gambling debt, right? So finances are a bit different than outsourcing other types of work that you might not love doing.